Good afternoon, Mr. Calfee. Curiosity has gotten the best of me, and I'm taking a quick peek at the clock. As you can see, this is the internal, this is the movement, liberated from the ship's clock case. It has been let down, which means the springs have been relaxed. The little winding key that you use to wind the clock up is what we do is we relax the springs so that there's no tension on the movement and no power going to the gear train. I wanted to bring something to your attention. I'm going to use a little pointer here, a little copper pointer, and I'm going to show you some detail right here. You see this little black spot right here? This is what they call a pivot wire, and the hole there is called a bushing. And the bushing is worn out. Now, what does that mean? Well, let me show you. The pivot wire is actually the axles of the gears. As you can see, there is a forest of gears nested between the front plate here and the rear plate. And they have a corresponding axle that allows the gears to turn within the plates. And at the end of the axle is a little thing called a pivot wire, or we refer to as a pivot. And it goes through a hole in the front and rear plate called a bushing. And that is what gets worn out in clocks, not the gears so much. In fact, I don't ever recall ever seeing a gear being worn out. They'll get damaged, but what wears out are these little pivots, these holes here, these bushings. And this is a textbook example of excessive wear. Now, I'm going to move the spring manually. I'm going to put a load on the movement, and you can see how that little pivot wire is moving laterally within the hole. That is what is causing intermittent operation of the clock. It's taking a greater and greater degree of strain or power to operate the platform escapement up here, which is a beautiful little thing. It's what makes a ship's clock so unique. It has a very high quality and oftentimes a jeweled platform escapement, which allows the clock to function in any orientation, unlike a pendulum clock that would need to be very much upright and still. But what we'll need to do, as I had feared, is we're going to try to attempt to rebuild this movement. Now, I want to show you something else too. This is the winding arbor. This is the opposite end of where you put your key to wind up the clock. Look at this as well. This is quite pronounced. You see how it's moving up and down there. It may not seem like an awful lot, but it is quite a lot of wear. And the one there in the center is probably the one that's giving you the troubles. But we have very, very fine pivots further up into the movement itself. Hardly see them really. They're about a 0.5 millimeter in diameter. Very, very fine pivots indeed. Sometimes we are fortunate enough to be successful in rebuilding these. Sometimes we are not. I want to look to see what the availability is for this particular movement in terms of off-the-shelf availability. They're very pricey, and I would elect to go with a rebuild first rather than a replacement second. Here's another one. This is the strike side. You have the time side here, and the strike side. That's why there's two winding arbors. Look at this one here. This is in bad shape as well. Very bad shape. And I will do the same exercise using this spring barrel. Watch carefully. You see how that's moving around? Even more so, even more pronounced. You're probably not getting the clock to chime correctly either with that degree of wear. So I think what we're looking at this point is first a full rebuild if a brand new replacement is not available for this movement. But it is a bit laborious because everything comes apart. I mean, everything. These plates get separated. That means the gears then are loose and flopping around. You can have a whole table full of gears. They all need to go into the proper sequence. All these little set screws have to be just the way they should be, and they're very fussy. Number one reason why people don't like to tackle ship's clocks. And as a result, unfortunately, are rather expensive to repair because they are so labor intensive. I'll have to come up with an estimate, but I just want to show you first off what the technical problem is with the movement.